Phallus, penis, Paul Ledney. The trinity of Paul Ledney is the I guess not really a trinity. I mean, today is Easter, so I guess I don't know. It's a horrible intro, but we do have the originator of the penis and black metal, Paul Ledney, on the podcast again today. Thank you, Mr. Ledney.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Yep, a great influence on me and my own penis black metal, by the way. So I showed you that one track in my project, Amorphophallus Titanium, where yeah, definitely embracing the phallus. True USBM embraces the phallus. But we also have Shelly from Hate Meditations and Metal Legion Magazine. Thank you for joining, Shelly.
Yeah, good to be here on Easter chatting about penises, or as we say in the UK, penis.
Ah,
Yep. Today is Easter. It's also Hitler's birthday, and it's also 420, the weed head day, where people smoke a lot of weed, and it's also the Columbine massacre anniversary. So,
Christ, big day.
depending
yeah, a
on
lot
where,
of stuff.
yeah, depending on where you are, in your mindset, there's something pretty much for everyone there. I'm joking. But yeah, Pro Fanatica is what we're doing today on, this trifecta holiday or whatever you want to call it. But anyway, Mr. Ledney has a new release coming out on April 25th for Pro Fanatica. It's called Wraith and Dead Angels. Mr. Shelley is very, very nice by sending me the promo, and I was able to check it out. And it was quite, definitely Pro Fanatica, not breaking any true new molds. Definitely leaning into that Necrovore type of style, as well as early incantation. And I believe on the fifth track there was a little hint of keyboards too. I know, Paul, you're not really into chatting about gear and all that, but where did the idea come from to incorporate keyboards?
So I've done it before. We have like some certain melodies where it just hits me and I'm like, we have to accent that with a keyboard. And so there's been other bands that do it, and I like that as long as it's done properly, and by my definition properly, and a little bit minimal, you know. So it's good that you noticed that you could hear it. Um, and one band that did it that I really liked the way they did was that Swedish crematory demo. I forget the name of the demo right now, but they used it against the riff to like accent it. It was either that or a bass effect. I still don't know.
It kind of reminds me
But
of the keyboards in Chapel of Ghouls that kind of just creep in, really minimalistic. But
yeah, totally. They're not. They're just there to as like to give like a helping hand to the riff almost. They're not overdone. But if some bands want to do that, that's fine with me too.
if they want to overdo the keyboards,
Yeah, I mean,
it's a loaded, gesture there. You're going to overdo the keyboards. I guess that's fine. I'm going to be prancing out in the woods, corpse paint on like those silly Europeans. Yeah, but I thought that was a nice little touch to mix it up because the song kind of flows, between. Well, the last track definitely has like this early, the way it evolves, it jumps into like definitely like an early incantation type of sound going on. And I know you were one of the original members of Incantation with John McEntee.
yep.
But yeah, I tried to listen to that Into the Necrosphere podcast last night, but I was also drinking beer, and it didn't keep my attention. I'm sorry to say that, but uh didn't really glean that much new information when I did listen. Of course, I was drinking alcohol. I know you're straight edge, right?
Yeah, for the most part, yeah.
So you're not celebrating 420 today.
No,
I
but
mean,
other
I don't think
people
you're
around me are.
celebrating Easter either.
I'm not.
And
I mean, it's super nice
I
out,
know you're
so
not a Nazi, so you're not celebrating Hitler's birthday. So is it the Columbine massacre anniversary that you're celebrating today?
no. I'm
No.
gonna say I'm not celebrating anything.
Oh, wow.
So probably at a protest, I'm still anti everything.
Anti everything. There you go. I'm currently writing a paper on elitism, and I think you're like the the most extreme form of an elitist, where it comes into. I actually praise elitists, and when I refer to your type of elitism, it's kind of like a deep elitism where you try to. No, you're very serious to your approach. You're not in it just to, collect rare demos, even though you're kind of in that frame with the early Morbid Angel demos like Thy Kingdom Come and
Hmm.
the Necrovore demo, but you don't collect, obscure demos just to collect them, right?
No,
So he's
I
not
mean,
that type of
I
elitist.
have a bunch. I have like originals from back in the day, and people send me stuff constantly, and some of it's good, some of it's just okay, but I'll happen to be friends with the people. But most stuff I get, I'll pass on to my friend Bill, who has a zine here in Connecticut, Mental Funeral, because he likes to check a lot of different stuff out, you know. So yeah, I mean, I'm definitely, yeah, I'll give anything a listen.
Huh.
Let's put it that way.
So going back to the EP, I don't think I've spoken to you since you actually released your last album back in 2023. But the interesting thing about the EP was like, yeah, it's about 20 minutes, but it does have quite a it hits all of the greatest hits of Prophet and Attica, if that makes sense. Like, I think the second track, The Sixth Hour, has a really good like punk element to it, very good
Mm-hmm.
punk beat. Jason obviously mentioned the keyboard aspect of Reefed and Dead Angels, and some stuff that hits on, I think, goes back to like Disgusting Blasphemies Against God. It's sort of a nice little like summary of what I'd call modern era Prophet and Attica from like 2007 onwards, I guess. Sorry, go on.
Me, I mean, first of all, thank you. I think it has all that stuff too, and that's kind of important. And it's like if it flows and I feel like something needs to be brought out to give it that, like it's all planned out unless we start going in a direction that's working, and then I won't kind of fight it, if that makes sense. I'll just kind of go with it. But I do like that it hits on all those points.
Yeah, no, it really does. I actually didn't get this from the promo. Are you working with the same lineup as the previous album, or is it
Yeah. Yep.
any new people?
Same.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
So it's the same setup as in the same studio as Crux Simplex, and it's like a continuation of that, if you will. So basically, the first 10 stations of the cross are on Crux Simplex, and these are the last four plus two extra tracks, if you will.
Yeah, I think now you say that you can hear it because I think by Rotting Incarnation of God, things were getting quite like big by Profanatica standards, like quite expansive. There's quite a lot of slower numbers on there, but Crux Simplex, I don't want to say back to basics because I hate it when people say back to basics, but it was like a much more like vicious, sort of just violent Profanatica release, and I see this is kind of a continuation of that in part.
Totally. I get a lot of people saying, um, people that are just standard metalheads that don't really listen to too much death and black metal, they were like, you would benefit from what they call like building a track. You know what I mean? Like the beginning builds up to something big, and then like everybody hits guitar, drums, vocals, and bass at one time. And that could be true, but it's just kind of not our formula. And I like that this EP is like stripped down. This is like all the stuff. There's no extra shit in there. It's just the stuff that's needed. And let's see kind of within this narrow playing field how far we could take it and still be original, because these songs are still kind of new and fresh in my opinion. And we don't need like a lot of noisy guitar solos to make the song like 2 extra minutes from like a 2.5 minute song to like a 6 minute song, just because there's an extra long guitar solo or a long intro. You know what I mean? Like I like to have it. I like to. It's really what we don't use is the key. Like when it comes down to like mixing, or more the engineer, like I'll sit with them and be like, get rid of this, get rid of that, you know? So that's the way I look at it. As far
Yeah,
as putting shit together.
yeah, no, I completely understand that, and yeah, I don't want to immediately start shitting on other bands, so I won't name any names, but younger bands, I will say, I'll listen to a lot of shit where it feels like they needed someone to be really like brutal with the editing and say strip all this back. You don't need this really long intro or whatever. Because like when bands do build up a song, as you said, like really to kind of create the tension or whatever, it can work. Like if you do it
Sure.
right. But a lot of bands these days don't, and there's a lot of filler in there or just a lot of gumph that I feel like no, it needs to be more direct and just to the point.
Yeah, coming from our background, especially me and Gelso when we started the band, was primarily punk, is what we would listen to. You know, like the old Sam Hain shit. Um, you know, Heresy from England, like Repulsion, and Siege from Boston. Like we like that fast, aggressive type of style. And it's just, although I like some of that building tension, like you mentioned, like I'm a fan of Nightbringer's work and they do that really well. Kyle's an expert at that, but it's not our like formula to work like that.
I haven't heard the name Nightbringer in years. I saw them
Yeah.
play one time in San Antonio, but yeah, their style is very different than, what you're going for. Very atmospheric, type of droning black metal riffs. But yeah, I haven't heard that name in forever. They're from Colorado, right?
Yeah. And I guess he's doing Ackley's now, which I like that stuff. But they too had their share of like scrutiny where people were like, dude, you guys don't need a 7 minute song. You know, people were like giving them not shit, but like putting their 2 cents in. And, they were just like, look, this is kind of the way we run things. So take that same kind of attitude as we have. Because of course people through the years are like, why don't you make the song a little bit longer? And I'm like, for what? Like I hate to say it, but this song is done. Like
Yeah,
when
a lot of bands they overload their songs either with too much repetition or too many ideas, it becomes bloated.
yeah,
So yeah, definitely less is more. As long as the statement is there, which Profanatic has a very straightforward statement. So yeah, I don't think the Profanatica would actually benefit from longer durations.
yeah, that's true. That's true. So this EP I'm 100% happy with. Like I like the look of it, the feel of it. Uh this is going to be the first one that I've included lyrics. In the past I've included like chunks of lyrics, but I kind of added them in and out of like kind of out of order almost. So they were kind of hidden. Um but this has like the full lyric, and I think, I mean, if they're based on the Stations of the Cross, so if you don't have knowledge of what those mean and what they're for, it might very well look like another language to somebody. They might be like, oh, these are just like blasphemies put to like pounding evil riffs. And they're not. They're like, if you really look into them and the Stations of the Cross, these are like a miles deep in meaning and have multiple meanings for each phrase.
Let's see, does it go back to like medieval Christianity, the Stations of the Cross?
Yeah, I mean, some of it, I'll be honest, is it's better if you when you like listen to this thing, if you glanced at the Stations of the Cross like while you're listening, uh it's going to have a bigger impact, let's put it that way. But I've been approached by people that are like, dude, you did a great job, you like bent those and twisted them and bastardized them, and it was like brilliant and brutal and a little bit obnoxious. So we still have that like, fuck you. Like if I want to, the lyrics of the song will be the title of the song. And that is like kind of a middle finger to everybody else who's like writing pages and pages of like just nonsense based on like fantasy world shit that they made up. Again, if they like that, they could do it. That's cool. Which is, also like a put down.
Right. Yeah, I'm just kind of Googling Stations of the Cross. I went to a Baptist university, unfortunately.
I know you
And,
told me that.
and so my knowledge of Catholicism is pretty much nil. But a couple weeks ago I was talking to Daniel Lake, and he said that you're really like knowledgeable about Catholicism, and you like twisting the ideas and all that. So yeah, it's coming full circle here at the Stations of the Cross.
Yeah, cool. I just thought it was like a neat concept. And I was like, nobody's done this. I'm gonna do this. And when I like refamiliarized myself with them, I was like, oh my God, this is like gold. I've stumbled upon gold. Like I'm gonna really bend this shit and like twist it to my will. And some of it's like, writes itself. Like it's kind of brutal, like the verbiage they use too back in the day.
Well, yeah, I was going to say that's one of the sort of enduring appeals of particularly Christianity in general is there's just endless because it's not just obviously the Bible, but just the endless medieval literature on it and theology. And yeah, some of it you don't really have to do any editing, and it sounds like yeah, death metal lyrics or whatever.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I would also add the cover art is spectacular.
Cool. So Abomination Hammer did that as well from Canada, and he did Crook Simplex. And when I work with these artists, I try to let them bring out the best in their skills without them adding in their own ideas at all. Like I definitely am strict. I sent a pencil sketch to each of these artists, and I'm like, you can't stray from this sketch, and let me see your sketch. And most of the time, it's like dead on. Like they kind of capture the soul of what I'm going for. So you could see that like Chris Moyen did a couple of pieces for us, and although you could tell it was him who did it, it doesn't really look like all the other stuff that he's done. And same thing with Daniel Desecrator. He's done covers for bands, and I'm looking at, and my old age, I'm getting a little more chill, but also more brutal in that I'm not picking on other bands. I'm just like, they don't have like this vision, I guess, or like, I guess it's like a certain vision you have to have, and you want it very close to that vision. Whereas a lot of other bands would be like, I like this artist, I'll just buy something else he drew. And that's fine too.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I was reading the recent book released on Decibel of Immolation's biography, basically, and they were saying a similar thing that for death metal bands of their generation, they would give very, very detailed notes on what they wanted, and that's how they ended up. Like their first run of albums has really spectacular cover art, but yeah, the cover art for this EP, I like it because it looks quite classical and classy. If you ignore the fact that it's a bunch of sort of naked, beheaded angels,
Yeah,
it's actually quite a pleasant image to look at, and also the fact that it doesn't have any sort of really hench goats with giant erect phalluses means I could wear it on a t-shirt around the house without being yelled at by my wife. So.
that's kind of funny because we have there was another artist I work with, John Self, and he I don't know if have you seen the inside? Like, do you actually have it, or you just saw the cover?
No, I just have the promo over email, so I just seen the
Okay,
cover.
because some of the art on the inside, you'll see that this guy John Self did. It's like a nun, like holding like a staff with our angel, and there's some dead lambs hanging off. And he did it in his style, which I like. I want all these different artists that have their own like style to kind of paint my vision in their style, but without any of their ideas or input. So I like that that Ross was saying that detailed notes, especially back then. I mean, now there's the dark art now is a lot different than it was back in the 90s or late 80s.
Well, it's gone through a few phases, I suppose, because back in the day it would be people hand drawing their own shit, and then maybe you would scrabble together enough money to pay an artist to do stuff, and you get some of the the really
Yeah.
colorful, bright, distinctive early 90s death metal style. But then obviously when Photoshop came in and then digital artwork, everything got a bit wacky and you know
Mm-hmm.
a bit naff from my perspective. But like painted artwork has undergone a real resurgence in terms of people trying to look more authentic and stuff. But I like that this isn't it's not like overwrought. It's a very clear like color scheme to it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, yeah, it's like the most subtle and classy way you could depict what is essentially an incredibly violent image.
Yeah, that's cool because the guy actually said muted colors, like my color scheme, and I sent back, I go, yup. And then that's it. And then I had it kind of immediately. This thing kind of took a little bit to prepare, like based on like when we're not touring, you know. Uh, so it took a little bit. He was kind of patient with us before we like bought the thing to put it out on Hells. But yeah, that's cool that you like that. When you see it in person, I think one of the things I really like about the color grading is like the way it printed. So there's been times, and I don't want to mention which times, but the painting is amazing. And when I get the final product, I was like, oh, that's a little too bright. Like their graphic designer kind of brightened it up. This thing just looks dark and feels like dark, like it's printed at the perfect I guess like the brightness and contrast is exactly, it couldn't get any better.
Very cool, very cool. Going back to Hell's Headbangers, it's really cool that you're working with them again. I know Shelly became a big fan of J Dog's YouTube channel. Um, unfortunately, are you playing J Dog's festival?
Yes. Are you
Oh, Shelly,
coming?
I know. I have grad school and all that, so and I really don't want to deliver pizzas to find my way to the festival, which J Dog told everyone to deliver pizzas and all that. But Shelly, um, he was really taken aback by J Dog. I guess just like
No,
Shelly.
we had Cam Lee on a couple of months ago, and we were talking about like the scene and whatever, and Cam was just doing what he does and sort of just chatting about his thoughts on it. And he just mentioned, yeah, J Dog's YouTube channel, and he's just said he watches it every now and then if he wants to get fired up. And I'd seen his face around as like because he's become a bit of a meme, but I just started watching some of his videos, and I mean, maybe it's partly because I'm English and he's very, very American. Like,
Totally.
yeah, he was just having a rant about how some people were saying they couldn't afford to come to his festival because they couldn't scramble the money together for travel and tickets or whatever. And he just ranting about how he used to like work 7-day weeks when he was a teenager and stuff. And I just found it quite funny. He's just a
I
character, isn't
mean,
he? So
he is, and I get what you're saying. He's 100% American, but in person, he's the same way. Because I remember, we were discussing like I think it was in Milwaukee when he said, "Yo, if you play my fest, you could do the whole Profanatitas first album." And I was like, maybe. Um, and he goes, "Why not? All you'd have to do is this, this, and this." So he really is like that in person, and he wasn't wrong. It's just like kind of a big commitment to because I want to do that album justice, and going back to rememorize everything because I don't want to just play the riffs. We want to kind of live it. So
well, it's probably one of your most atmospheric albums as well. Like there's a lot going on behind the riffs in terms of the vibe, for want of a better word. But
yeah. So we have like I'm excited to do it, and by the time we get to scourging and crowning, we should be like really in like tranced up, so to speak. Like going back and revisiting that, and like kind of almost relearning it, um, is has been good.
Yeah,
But
no, that would be awesome to see. It's a shame I can't make it, but
I mean, he's I like that. I like to play a fest with a lineup that's a little bit different, and each band sounds a little bit different. Because I mean, especially for us, it's going to make us sound that much thicker playing with other type of bands like that. Like Attic, it sounds nothing like us. I kind of dig that rather than like 12 war metal bands on the same bill. That really, the average person could only take like 17, 18 minutes to that war metal live that loud before they kind of tune out.
Yeah, it becomes really monotonous. A lot of the bands playing in the same styles. There's a lot of that happens in Texas too, because right now there's like this. I think it's more of like a social thing where all of a sudden there's all these war metal bands, and they're all like friends with each other and playing, the same shows and all that, and posting all the same pictures on social media. But when you look at like war metal, like Revenge, that's closer to power violence and hardcore and all that than it is to um actual metal, grindcore, I should say, not hardcore. But
Yeah, you mean the structuring kind of?
I mean, all of it is really.
Yeah,
You
I
listen to
like it
power
though.
violence, listen to power violence and put on Revenge, is it's pretty clear that Revenge is power violence.
was the hardcore vocals style as well. And yeah, the structuring and the pacing is more, yeah, it's closer to something that's come from punk, I suppose. But
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, there's that type of war metal that's essentially power violence, in my opinion. Then there's also all the Angel Corpse derivative bands, which Angel Corpse
Hmm.
is derivative of Morbid Angel.
Totally.
So
100%.
yeah, I think war metal is more of a fad. I mean, granted, some people say Beherit is war metal. I don't really agree. I mean, some of the lyrics kind of like the early Beherit could be considered that, but as a whole, I think there's much more substance to Beherit. But I guess like the whole war metal thing is just really just like blasphemy, in my
I
opinion.
mean, I get it. You're not wrong. Talk about substance. I mean, one of my favorite bands of all time is Black Witchery. Like I celebrate their whole catalog, and because it came out at a time where everybody was like copying Dark Throne, you know what I mean? And those guys came out of Florida were like, "Fuck you!" Like this is the shit we're into. And I remember hearing it, going, "Finally, somebody gets it." You know what I mean? And they're upping the ante. At least back then they were like what they're playing because they were like no joke live. They were tight as fuck. But
I mean,
I can imagine that everybody, most people that like Blasphemy, Archgoat, Beherit and stuff also are a fan of our shit. I would hope so. But I like to think, even though it's stripped down, it is stripped down. I like to think that we have a little more substance besides like just blasting and really slow, than blasting again, you know?
Yeah, certainly way more. I would say Profanatica has 10 times more substance than even Black
Okay.
Witchery, honestly. But yeah, I can understand the appeal of Black Witchery. There are some really creative hooks, and this is the most simplistic take on black metal, right? But it's the way the hooks are and the riffs that really drive some music forward. But um, I can only tolerate a little bit of Black Witchery at a time, as well as like Conqueror and all of that. It's more of like if I'm stuck in traffic and I just want to blast some like feral ass metal, I'll put stuff like that on.
Yeah.
But like Profanatica, I can enjoy in all kinds of different environments, not just being stuck in traffic. So I would say, yeah, there's way more substance in the Profanatica. It's more, I think the music's also more thoughtful, even though it's really straightforward. There's more character, there's more like an intuitive approach to song structure. as well as, you know, I really do enjoy your style of drumming, where I think there's too many technical drummers out there where it all sounds like so sterile. They're all doing the same, you know, gravity blasts and all this stupid shit where you really don't need that in black metal. What you just need is someone who understands like how the pacing of the song should be and, you know, where the fills should be. That's another thing I really enjoy about your drumming is the fills. Because sometimes even the most simplest fill can really drive a riff home like that, you know, just capturing the essence of the riffs with the fills and beats. So
Cool. Thank
definitely,
you.
yeah. Shelly,
So, I mean, you understand music, so I'll take that as a compliment. I
somewhat, yeah.
I will go somewhat. It's a compliment or somewhat you understand it. You do.
Somewhat, I mean, I know some theory, but yeah, I'm not a you heard my black metal song. I'm not a good musician.
Okay, but could you, if you had to, uh, do like a Profanatica cover and embellish heavily, like on piano?
Oh yeah, yeah. On piano I
Uh,
could, yeah.
okay,
But not
because
maybe on
it's
guitar, I could also kind of make my way through it, but I just started playing guitar again after 15 years, and the guitar I have is just a $200 Ivan piece of shit. My actual guitar pedal, I have the fuck off and die guitar pedal that costs $250, so it's more expensive than the actual guitar I'm using. But it works. Like that's all. I just need the tone and all that, and that's what I got. So, but yeah, my technical ability is not as good as it used to be on guitar, but and I really don't have any desire to like actually practice either. When I picked up a guitar, it's to write something. So
uh-huh.
yeah, you're probably the same way, right?
Well, I practice every day, but to keep my chops up. Um, and what I do in terms of like drumming, so I'll just say this that in the world of extreme drummers, I've never seen like so these guys are really skilled, right? Like all these kids that will like kind of open the show for us. All of those drummers have more skilled hands and feet than me, but they all have, with the exception of a few, and I mean a handful out of like 30 different bands, we'll just say that will like open the show on any given tour. These guys have such a low drumming IQ that they're not even really drummers. It's like a trick they do, if you will. Like I've tried to explain it to a couple of friends of mine that are really good guitar players in the Pacific Northwest. They'll send me something, be like, "This guy's sick on drums. This is the kind of drummer I want." And I'm like, "The guy's sick for sure. Like his feet are going a mile a minute, his hands are, but like." For instance, like cymbals are only there for accents. That's it. That's why they're invented. So like I stay the fuck off my cymbals until they need to be hit or to get the message across. Like I've been playing a long time. So I'm never like, what should I do here? Ever. You know what I mean? And maybe if I did that, I would come up with better shit, but it just kind of happens naturally.
I mean, I think that goes for not just drums, but the level of musicianship in general in metal is so much higher in terms of technical ability than it used to be. Um, and yeah, that you do come across some really impressive musicians, and they obviously spend hours and hours and hours honing their craft, but it can lead to, I mean, it's what we were talking about earlier on, overplaying and overthinking things to the point where it's sort of detrimental to them expressing anything meaningful. And what I was just thinking just then is not to sort of um, be too sycophantic, but something like Dethrone the Son of God, where I was just like, if you listen to that, the drums are essentially the lead instrument, and you like the guitars follow the contours of the drums, but they're not doing anything like particularly technical or showy or anything. It's just a very physical kind of experience. And I think that's kind of, not to put words in Jason's mouth, but I think that's what we're getting at is like you can always tell Paul Ledney's style because it's so distinctive, even though there's not really any sort of any of the sort of really technical showy stuff. It doesn't need that, as you said. Like the symbols are there to accent it, so you do get these really kind of physical kind of I don't know, it just physical beats or whatever, and the fills are always very, very intuitive, and it's not always like um all over the place and shuffly. And drummers can do that and express themselves to a great extent. Some of the classic drummers from death metal were very technical, but also instantly recognizable, like your Mike Smiths or whatever. But that's not the case anymore because the level of musicianship is so much higher that you have to do something a bit different to stand out. And to be honest, that different thing could just be bringing it back, to a simpler kind of style. To be honest.
Yeah, that's I agree 100%. Mike Smith had killer shit back in the day, and I'm sure he's even better now. I haven't heard him in a long time. But that's somebody with like a high drumming IQ. Like somebody else who I would say has a high drumming IQ was B. Dave Lombardo. He was, of course, one of my influences.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And he's not, yeah, he wasn't even like one of the most technical drummers in that thrash generation, but he's just so like watching drum cam footage of him playing through some of the classics. He's so like fluid, and he manages to add like a almost like a sense of swing to, Angel of Death, all these really fast parts, but it's still got this kind of this fluidity to it that just you can't really replicate or you can't really teach it. It just comes naturally to him.
Yeah, and that's his style 100%, and that's kind of all I wanted, and I think I got it. So I think when I got it, I didn't get lazy or complacent. I just got comfortable with it. I'm like, this is kind of what I do, and I've been in a position where I was like, shit, maybe I should work on ultra fast double bass, but again, it just wouldn't fit with what we're doing.
So when we think of like simplistic drummers, it's usually the first name that pops in our mind is Lars Ulrich. What do you think about him? I know you're more talented than he is, but I think some of the fills are actually kind of effective.
I mean, God, this could take a long time. Like, let's put it to you this way: it's not like like my heroes are better than me, if that makes sense. Like, I was never really influenced by him. He's like, that's his band, so he did amazing things with getting it out there. Some of the stuff that he did back when I remember getting Kill 'Em All like the week it was released, and I had it on cassette. Wherever we go, like with the family, I'd have it like in a Walkman that played tapes back in the day. And I'm like, a lot of what this guy, even though I was a kid, a lot of what he was doing felt like petting a cat backwards to me. You know what I mean? Like, I could see how it's effective.
Shelley knows what you mean by that.
Yeah, I've got two pussies, so I know very much what you mean.
He's just like, when he's hitting with the snare and the cymbal, it should be with the bass drum and the cymbal.
That's his thing. Like, this is, sorry, I don't want to interrupt, but this was going to be my take on Lars. Is like, yes, he's got old and lazy now because he owns Metallica and he doesn't practice anymore. But back in the day, he's another drummer that had an unmistakable style. It's not technical, it's not showy, but it really worked for those first 3 or 4 records. And he had a style. It was like, that's the Lars style. He wasn't a natural drummer. He just practiced at it and really kind of, I guess, composed drums for those tracks really well, but he wasn't Mr. Fancy Pants or whatever. And
okay,
yeah.
So maybe I need you guys to like follow me in my daily life, because when I go, this sucks, you could be like, no, this is actually a good movie. They're trying to put comedy in here, and I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. So I guess like after you said that, it is true. He wasn't somebody that I liked, but looking back on it now, the early drumming, I guess, was his style. And he was like very much a fan of like the new wave of British heavy metal stuff, right?
Yeah, absolutely. They all were.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
actually plagiarized a whole bunch of those bands.
Oh yeah. But so I often say Metallica is really bad at being Metallica, you know? And I'll go as far as to say, like, the later Slayer was bad at being Slayer, and Morbid Angel, for me, are horrible at being Morbid Angel. Like, I know that sounds
Don't get me
crazy.
started on Morbid Angel.
Yeah. And I'm just like, dude, come on. Like,
So not to throw Steve Tucker under the bus, but back in like 2017 when Kingdom's Disdain came out, I gave it a listen and I wrote a review online on a website and I shared it. And Steve Tucker actually wrote to me and asked if, because I trashed the album. I said "So even worse than Elude Divinum Insanus, because at least they were trying to make a statement, even though it was fruity and confused as hell. But Kingdom's Disdain was just like the lowest form of fan service, no real creativity to it. And it sounded like fucking shit. And so I trashed the album. And Steve Tucker wrote to me, but it was like, well, the vocals are good at least, right? Like, get the fuck out of here, dude. Like,
I mean, I never heard it, so I don't think I would like.
but he essentially acknowledged that, yes, it is a bad album, but I sound good on a bad album, right? Like, get out of here, dude. Like, that was like the worst type of response I've ever received on a review that I wrote.
So like, in terms of it could have been that he thought this isn't that great, but I'm going to still go for it vocal wise to try to save it. It could be that he put a lot of work into the vocals and that he wanted to get some acknowledgement. So I
So
can't
the thing
fault him,
about
but
yeah, the thing about Steve Tucker, and I guess this is just gonna bury any potential relationship I could ever have with Morbid Angel moving forward. But the issue with Steve Tucker is that he's very good at being generic. Like his vocal style is a very generic, you know, Cookie Monster style of death metal vocalizations. Like the growls are very typical, the highs are very typical, but he's really good at doing that very generic type of style. Um, so yeah, my criticism of that is like Dave Vincent's 100% a better vocalist, but uh Steve Tucker is like he's good at being generic, which I guess is like
I
a
don't
C
know, man.
plus,
Like I'm
a
I'm
C
more of a
plus.
I'm more of a Steve Tucker guy. Like I think, yeah, Dave Vincent's one of the most iconic voices in extreme metal, and stepping into his shoes, there's not many people that could do it. And Steve Tucker's a safe pair of hands. Like solid.
I I get what you're saying, and if you look at like everybody is like nowadays the most popular shit is the most mediocre. Like it's just standard what people expect. That's what you give them, and they're happy with that.
You're right, like cattle decapitation, that's super generic shit, like very soulless. But yeah, it's super popular because it's super processed and all that.
Mm-hmm. That's
Yeah,
another thing that like I said. I was just did another session with J Dog, so I don't want to talk about what I talked about with him. But there's this whole legion of people doing what we used to refer to as laptop metal, where everything is like, click track, that's fine. Again, that's fine if somebody wants to do it. Just don't bring it around me. You know what I mean? Like for some technical death metal, I guess you need a click if you want to be on time. But they have the whole set, these new death metal bands on the laptop or the iPad. Like everything is there.
yeah. The
Yeah, I
drummer
think
has
some of that
headphones
comes.
on and listen to a click track live. Yeah, it doesn't have an organic feel,
No, not at all. And they
but
don't
Some
have
of
this like off the cuff. It's all planned out.
right. But the
some of
thing
that
is,
comes from writing remotely as well. If they live,
Sure, sure.
yeah.
So that's true. It's there's another like they kind of need that if they want this like a specific drummer, just put it on a click and tell me like how when to blast. But for at least for me, maybe it's because of my age, I could tell that it's not sincere because they're doing that. Like if I had to do that, like if I worked remotely, that would probably be the way I would do it. But I'd try to like have just not disguise it, but add a little more realism to it to offset that like clicky bullshit. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I mean, yeah, I was saying that not, um, like, yeah, okay, if you are a group of musicians and you're working remotely, and I feel like you have to be good enough, or your style has to be a certain thing that is like, suits that. But yeah, I feel like there isn't really a replacement for a band hashing out stuff in a practice room together, and then recording it at least together in the same environment, rather than I'll send you this file, I'll send you that file, and we'll mash it all together, as you said, on a laptop or whatever. I think, especially for the style of Profanatica, but even for more like elaborate technical styles, I think there isn't really a replacement for a band sitting in a studio, sitting in a practice room, jamming together, working out
Yeah.
ideas together. If it's going to be a collaboration, if it's not just one guy, writing and recording everything together, like, yeah, there's not really any replacement for that. And you can sometimes tell when they have just, yeah, mixed it all together on a laptop and it's all been recorded, thousands of miles apart.
Yeah, the only thing for one man projects you have to use a click track. So like that's like I remember I know you're not a fan of Burzone, but he initially like didn't use a click track in his earlier stuff, and it was like painstaking the way he had to record. It was a lot more effort he had to put into it, whereas when he used a click track, it was a lot more streamlined. But I don't think he's the type of drummer you're criticizing with the click track. It's more of like the more fast mainstreamy death metal types of drummers, right?
Yeah, and it's not like me against drummers using a click track. It's me against like the whole band having their own individual laptops with their effects up there. You know what I mean? Rather than just plug your bass into maybe
Yeah,
a
I saw a
pedal.
video of
And
Nile using their laptops, and I was like, "What the fuck is all that shit on the?"
yeah, everybody does it. And I'm like, if I took that thing and got my like cheese doodle greasy fingers all over your keys and you couldn't use it for that night, you know what I mean? Or I had a good night on like Pornhub and like destroyed your keyboard, then what are you gonna do? You're gonna have to fucking plug in direct and actually play your set. You know what I mean?
No,
I
I
don't know.
totally know what you mean. Yeah.
And that's just like here the ultimate thing is like do what you want. And if you do what you like, ultimately you are gonna one thing's gonna happen. You're gonna get good at what you do if you like that. I'm just saying for me, who cares what Paul Ledney thinks? But since you're asking, I hate that shit. So you could do it, just don't bring it around me. In
Hey,
Well, I
Shelly,
fact,
will say,
Shelly, do your Paul Ledney impression.
I'm not going to do a Paul Ledney impression.
When
What's
I
in the
went to
room,
England, when
man?
I went to England, Shelly did a Paul Ledney impression.
what was I cool or what?
No, he was just mimicking your accent, the Connecticut, New York accent.
Yeah, yeah. I'm
Okay, I'm
definitely
gonna.
East Coast.
Are you gonna
I'll
do
have
it,
one
Shelly?
more glass of wine and then I'll do it.
All right, you're gonna do it later, right?
I'll do it later.
Yeah.
Wait, so Jason, where are you? And how come we haven't seen you?
So, Mr. Ledney, I did go to Yale University
Oh
and
yeah, that's
didn't
right.
want
You
to hang
did.
out.
You reached
Um,
out. So my
yeah,
situation is like when I'm done with work, I'm like extremely spent and tired, and it, it is tough. It is tough. I've blown, not meaning to blow anybody off, but I'm I'm not so mobile where I could just jump in the car.
right.
But what
Yeah,
were you?
that's understandable. I'm kind of the same way now that I'm a little bit older. I really don't venture out to shows as much. Like the last show I went to was December when Thorn Spawn and Morbus 666 and all that played in Fort Worth. But yeah, I saw one time that Profanato was coming through, but I was busy with work or now at school.
Mhm.
I'm also like J Dog wouldn't like me because I'm kind of broke while I'm doing school full time, unable to attend his festival. That was really funny about that video because he's like, man, you guys, like, I worked at Burger King and I was, the top guy. I became manager super quick. I busted ass, and you guys complaining that you don't have money. Go work at Burger King. Go deliver pizza. Come to my festival. Spend $1,000.
I mean, it could work. Uh, d- I don't know. I think his
I was
fest will be
admiring his
good.
I was admiring his work ethic, basically. He was basically saying they asked him to be manager at Burger King before he was 18, or something like that, because I when I was 18, I was lapping you. I was lapping you, goddammit. That's what he was saying.
He was, I'm sure though. So all three brothers, like I've been there when they get there, their heads are down and they go to work. Like they're serious about it.
Yeah, I think that's the other thing. It's not just his accent that I find American, but that we call it hustle culture, but that is a very American thing, I think. Not that we're fucking bone idle in the UK. We have a very strong work ethic, but we're not like what's the word? Really arrogant about it. We just kind of knuckle down, I suppose. But it's just a
Mhm.
very American thing of just I'm gonna fucking work hard, I'm gonna make loads of fucking money and spend it all at this festival or whatever. But
So I'm gonna start getting arrogant about it, I think, because I've been
oh, go ahead.
grinding. So preparing for J Dog's Fest, and I can't really talk about it, but probably a tour right after that fest. I've been what the work that I do is like heavy cardio, and it's not so much for drums; it's more for vocals. So I don't run out of gas, and I push really hard live. And back in the day, I don't know if we've talked about this on one of my 3 times, but back in the day, I would run out of gas on like the third song and look down at the set list to be like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. We have like 9 more tracks. Why would I put so many of our own songs in our set list? You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
now I could just go like 45 minutes nonstop, and I don't want to lose that. So I do like a lot of like pushing up like huge hills for cardio, especially in the cold, because it's still a little cold in the East Coast. And every day. So like I kind of start like a workout camp, I would say like 3 months before I know we're gonna tour. Because I have ran out of gas before. It's like a horrible, scary feeling. It's like being in a fight and you can't breathe.
I
Yeah,
mean, yeah, I mean that's one thing I always respect about extreme metal vocalists in general. If they're doing longer tours, night after night, is just keeping that routine to make sure that you can keep that level of intensity every time, every night. Because yeah, it's fucking grueling. So,
It's grueling, and so I've never taken it easy, or uh, I've never kind of half-assed it on stage. I would like to, but I just can't. You know what I mean? Like, there's no situation where I could be like, oh, like we played gigs that were like kind of unannounced almost, and I was like, oh shit, is tonight the night we could just kind of plow through our set and not kill ourselves? And then I see there was one fucking weirdo from Germany holding the original Weeping in Heaven 7 inch, and I was like, fuck. We have to go as hard as we can just for this one guy. Like he was older. He's had this shit since 1992. There's no way we could just kind of muddle through our set.
speaking of 7 inches, everyone's seen your penis. Is it 7 inches?
God,
fuck me,
maybe
Jason. You bring this up every time.
he does. Probably a hair under.
So 6 inches. I'm also 6 inches,
Probably a hair over and
but
thicker, but
Shelley, he uses the metric system, so he's probably 6 centimeters. So
We measure peni in inches in the UK as well because we watch American porn over here. So
you have to. That's what the laptops are for.
exactly.
And you know what I mean? Like get that shit dirty. Don't plug in all your little plugins and sounds.
That was when I was listening to the Into the Necrosphere podcast while drinking last night. That was one of the things I wrote down to bring up. It's like, let's compare dick sizes.
Good idea.
Yeah, really getting intellectual here.
To bring it back down to something slightly more serious, we've shot on a lot of, well, not specific bands or whatever. Are there any newer bands that you're excited about or interested in at all, Paul? Anything you've come across on tours?
God.
I realize I'm asking the ultra elitist here, so you might just say no.
Okay, so I'll give you one. There's a few, okay? There's a band from France called Hexecration Rights, and we played a Paris show with them, and they have a really good style, and they play really well. And he's also the drummer is one of the only drummers that I've seen that uses sticks as thick as my sticks.
Giggity.
Yeah. So basically, what happened with my sticks is that a couple of years, I don't know, maybe like 6 or 7 years ago, I bought a drum pad because I wanted to get back into my rudiments and get my chops up. And I grabbed the fattest pair of marching sticks for like workout purposes. And then after I got used to it, I couldn't go back to regular sticks. So like a regular drummer, it just feels like chopsticks to me. Like I can't get a good grip on them. There's no weight to them. So I just use like fat marching sticks.
I mean, yeah, that makes sense in terms of getting a heavy sound. Sorry, I was just looking them up, as you mentioned, Hexecration Rights, and they actually have their debut album out due out the same date as your EP, which is called 25th of April. But yeah, France has always been mental for black metal in that French black metal bands are always at the utmost extreme of any particular style.
Yeah, these guys, I want to say this is, what label is that coming out of, by the way?
Gods of War Productions.
Okay, all right, good. I did send their promo tracks to Hells, but I think they had like, there was something happen where it was like their calendar was like way too full and they couldn't do it. But that's somebody I would tell everybody to check out. It's played really well, it's smooth, and it's like black death metal style.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, I'll have to look into them. Anyone else or?
No. I mean,
Okay.
that's all I'll be willing to like share. How's that? I mean, I'm sure there's tons of shit if I heard it, but I'm still kind of. I haven't been sick of the old stuff. That band Spider is pretty good. Spiter on Hells, and they have like this like kind of punk and metal like kind of mix of they were originally from Detroit, those guys. They were in Shitfucker and now they're in Philly, and we're gonna do some European dates with those guys in the fall. So that's a Hell's Headbanger, like 100% Hell's Headbangers like style band.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean when you say that as well, because when I see promos from Hell's Headbangers, I always check them out. But yeah, some of it I pass over because it's not that I wouldn't write something praiseworthy about it, but it's like sometimes you just know it's a Hell's band where it is that particular style, and there's quite a few of them around, and
there is quite a few.
That. Yeah. The other thing I wanted to ask is we touched on. So one of the reasons I think Profanatica stands out with the crowd in terms of what we were talking about earlier on in terms of war metal. I wouldn't describe Profanatica as war metal, but obviously there's a lot of crossover. But you managed to work in that style while still making every single album different somehow. And I think part of that is the fact that you've taken the Haverhedge thing, or you did take the Haverhedge thing, and then totally avant-garde direction. You did a couple of sort of noise albums, I want to say, kind of avant-garde blackened
Mm-hmm.
noise. Do you have any plans in that project, or is that kind of just on standby for now? Or
No, I'm in the studio now on another full length Four Hells for that. It's
oh,
more
cool.
of the same, but it's just a little bit faster this time and a little more noisy.
Okay,
With
yeah.
some stuff that I like to call audio warfare. So
I
I'm
mean, yeah,
trying to kick it up a notch.
I totally understand what you mean when you're saying that. And speaking of using drums as kind of a lead instrument, that's essentially what it is sort of a combination of kind of static noise, some I want to say keyboards in there, but the drums are kind of the driving force in terms of phrasing the tracks and
Mm-hmm.
making the structure, I suppose, which I kind of like because for such a sort of I don't want to say minimalist, but sort of direct drumming style, it really does come through just by making this really sparse kind of atmosphere to it. It really works.
Cool. Thank you. I think because I'm the quote unquote idea man and it's like my vision and the instrument I play is drums, then that's probably why you're hearing that. You know what I mean? Like if I played bass, you might and I wrote everything and it was my vision, the bass might kind of stand out as the lead.
Yeah, I know what you're saying because I know you're not a fan of Dark Throne, but it's always been Fenriz's baby to a greater or lesser extent, and his drumming has always been the one consistent sort of aspect to it, and he has a very distinctive style, quite basic again, not very technical. Or again, at the other end, I'm thinking about someone like Absu, whereas another drummer-led band, and Prescriptor's style is unmistakable across all of Absu's work, and they shift around a little bit now and then, but he's another sort of drummer-led band where
True.
it makes them stand out more than your standard where you've got your guitarist or your vocalist who's the visionary and the rest of the lineup is kind of revolving.
Mm-hmm. That's true. So uh one thing I'll mention though is like back in Dethrone the Son of God days, I was essentially playing lead drums. This time with Wreathed and Dead Angels and Crux Simplex, I'm like, the drums have to be lower in the mix. You know what I mean? This is a very both albums are like more Crux Simplex was more guitar bass. I wanted it that way. I love the riffs on that. And especially this one, I said let's bump up the bass a little bit, keep the drums like when I go hear like what close to a final mix, I'm like, you gotta lower the drums, like constantly telling everybody that. Because I guess like since I'm the drummer, they want to give me loud drums. So it sends some examples of kind of what I like the where I like the drums to sit on like other tracks from other bands. And I'm like, do something more like this.
Yeah, I
For
will say on Disgusting Blasphemies, I think it's Christ's Precious Blood Poisoned, where there's a drum intro and it's insanely loud. And I absolutely love it, but I think I played it to friends who are not metal guys, but they know that I like a lot of this shit, and I think it genuinely scared them, the sort of the guitar noise over the top of this, just these thunderous drums where it's just
I
so loud.
like that too, though. That's like the punk in me. Like I like that the bass is so obnoxious in that, where it's almost like I didn't want it like this, but it almost came out like a skit where somebody's like, "Yo, we're gonna turn the fucking bass up so loud. I want to see what the other guys in the band say." And then for me, when I heard it, I'm like, "We're leaving it." And I remember Gelso like laughing, going, "Are you fucking serious?" I'm like, "Hell yes!" And I sent it to Hell's Headbangers, and they were like, "Fuck yes, we love it." And I'm like, "Is the bass too loud?" They were like, "Yes, but it's staying. It's amazing." And I'm like, "All right." And we actually, I can't mention his name, but there's somebody that had mastered certain things, and he's not famous, but he's he's pretty popular in the extreme metal circles. And when he heard that, Chase had forwarded me his email that he sent back to Chase saying, the bass is so fucking loud on this thing and there's too much bottom end. There's no way the needle will stay on the record. I still have the email. Off air, I'll tell you who it was, but I remember dying laughing because certain things make you smile. But when I read, he was like not joking. He was like, "How could you do this?" Like it was some kind of criminal act to have the bass that loud. And I was like, "Well, this is perfect. This is like what I've been more than I could have hoped for." That kind of reaction, you know?
I mean, yeah, if you were more pretentious, you would sort of say that was like a intentional thing for the vinyl heads or whatever. It's like, oh, it's fucking so loud that it's gonna fucking break your record player or whatever.
I mean, if I could come out of the cover and like slap each listener in the face, I would. That would be even better, but I can't. But yeah,
No, I mean, it was like 2010. It's rare to make something that shockingly heavy by that point because you sort of feel like all the walls have been already torn down by that point. It's not, yeah.
So there's a couple of things. There's production that adds to the heaviness, but what I like to do, and I kind of talk about this a lot with the people that I work with, is the word intent. I'm like, our focus has to be like laser focus. Like we have to be paying attention and put all of our brain power on and intent into this. Not to get like crazy, but the tiniest bit of quantum mechanics, if you will, just like that. Each thought has an associated energy, and we're 100% focused on that. And I want that to kind of come through.
Yeah, it's difficult to, as you said, it's difficult to like verbalize it, but as a listener, it's something that you can definitely spot in a band where they actually mean it, whatever style it is as well. It's like you can't, and I've, as someone that writes about metal a lot, I can't put it into words or necessarily define it or point to a specific thing. As you said, it's not in the production, not necessarily in the performance, although it should be, or it's how the performances are captured or how the performances are captured or whatever. But it is there, and it's like you can just tell when it's there. And something that's very sterile, even if it's good and well written stuff, it sort of doesn't hit in the same way if it's not played like they mean it. And I always, the way I describe it is like I like albums where it feels like there's still things can still happen on there. It's not like a completely curated, sterile environment. Like it's just there's a little bit lawless, I guess. And I guess that's the punk element coming through as well.
That's interesting because that was kind of your criticism about Nocturnus AD, their last album, where they had just like so many different ideas and they just all threw them in those songs. And Shelly, I remember you really enjoyed that. You obviously, riff salad's a bad thing, but just because they were so bold to throw in all these contrasting ideas that may not necessarily work well together, but it just showed like this raw type of creativity where anything can happen within one of their songs because the structure is like really almost random. But
Well, Mike Browning's another one where, again, very distinctive
vocalist,
drummer. Yeah, he's a very well got a vision, and the key is a messy album, but I like it because it is that messy, and it's just them sort of expressing that. But yeah, the Nocturnus AD stuff, it's like he's been given full license to kind of give voice to what he wanted to express back in the day to some extent. And yes, some of it is good. I don't want to completely shift on it. Like I do find those two albums, very interesting to listen to, but yeah, there's almost too much going on, and I think he could use some editing here and there because it's too orchestral. The albums are too long. The songs are too overwrought. Like he needs to just get back to being a bit feral, I guess.
I get what you're saying. I like that he's doing his vision, but it's also a matter of perception too. Like there are people listening to that right now that are like, I love this. I love how they keep switching it up. Like, you know what I mean? Once it's out there, it kind of doesn't even really belong to him anymore. So you got kids who are like, this is great. I love all these riffs going into each other. because not a lot of bands are really doing that. So that might stand out on like a positive to other people.
Yeah, that is a good point in terms of, especially if they're not, yeah, if they're not familiar with the history of Nocturnus or even death metal to some extent, and they're just getting into some of this, then it does depend on the perception of the listener and what, where they are, what they want from the music, and what they've heard before as well. Um,
Mr.
yeah,
Um,
it does make
Do
sense.
do you believe that after your music is out there that it's the audiences at that point in time, or do you feel that
God.
you're still part of that? Because the like contrasting Nocturnus AD and Profanatica is night and day. Your statements and music are very straightforward, on a little too on the nose sometimes, but which is one of the charming aspects of it. And then very streamlined. Whereas the Nocturnus AD, like Shelley said, it could use some editing, and there's a lot of riffs that sound like they should be in different songs, like different, characters all together within the same songs. It's just I forgot what I was asking with that. I'm sorry.
Oh,
Do you feel that you still own the expression essentially, even though it's being perceived quote differently by an audience?
yeah, yes and no. So like look at Stanley Kubrick and his works. He really didn't want to discuss what he meant by any of his shit because he just said this material is highly subjective. So like to a certain extent it is like that. But there's always going to be like this is what I mean. So that's why I've been kind of so vocal about the Stations of the Cross because to be honest, the average metalhead who I like to think is like a well-read type of person. They like horror movies. They like these kind of books. Like, they're kind of versatile metalheads, right? Or at least they should be. And I don't want anybody like kind of missing the point that we're like bending and like just showing how Christianity is a business. You know what I mean? And we're doing it in kind of like this brutal but also funny way that's kind of tongue in cheek, like where I could break character. You know what I mean? I guess I used to use Mayhemic Slaughter of the Heavens as my like band name, but then I'm like, look, I'm just gonna go with Paul Ledney. You know what I mean?
Right. So you believe that the concepts and the quote unquote intent behind the music is what still allows you to have some control over it after it's out there in the ether.
Yeah, like it's so I'm being vocal about it so that God, this is like kind of difficult to organize my thoughts. It's it's got many multiple meanings. Like I said, our shit is like miles deep, but now I'm talking about that openly because nobody's will take the time to like care or like look at the true meaning. How's that? So if I'm just kind of telling them, because people by and large are stupid, they have to be told what to like and what not to like. So 2025, I'm like, you need to like Wreath and Dead Angels. It's fucking perfect. You know what I mean? This was like the pinnacle. Like I love it so much that I don't even want to record again because it came out like I feel like I've reached my goal. I'm just looking to like now rip some of these songs live and kind of do them justice.
Yeah. It's I had no idea about the Stations of the Cross until you brought it up. Like I said, I had no real knowledge about Catholicism. I know like Eastern Orthodox has some other characteristics, like there's more books in the Old Testament or whatnot, but um yeah, I'm not even Christian, but it's cool that you have this element. It seems like there's a seriousness to how you blaspheme. Like you don't want to just. I know you said tongue in cheek here and there, but most tongue in cheek projects don't go as far as delving into the actual um traditions and rituals and all the things that go along with that, such as paintings and all that like even like a medieval philosophy, like which is all pretty much Christian.
Sure,
I
sure.
think that like Saint Thomas Aquinas, there's Saint Bonaventure, Saint Augustine. Have you delved into any of that? Because there's a lot of stuff you can twist and turn and use to blaspheme.
Not yet, but I see your point about that. So let me just go back to this. So in terms of like stripping something down and getting rid of stuff, I guess if I was a fly on the wall and I like, it's none of my business what any other band does. First, like how just to get that out in the open. But if somebody said, "Yo, we're bringing you in because you need to strip this shit down. These guys are crazy. There's just too many riffs." Uh, I would be probably an expert at doing that. You know what I mean? Like we did the video for Season of Mist for Take Up the Cross, and when I went to meet with the guy in the editing, that was all kind of planned out too. I storyboarded it out like what I wanted. The lyrics are kind of hidden in that video too. Um, and I said, you got to get rid of me. There's like way too much me in there. You know what I mean? You got to trim me out. So, I guess if it'd be good if I like could have like a final mix of every metalhead's like album. I
You don't
go
want
in.
that.
You
No,
should put your
No,
resume
trust me,
out there.
that would be fucking painful to listen to.
no, I know that. I'm just saying, like, if we did like kind of maybe a hidden camera show, I'd be like, we got to get rid of all of you guys, and they would just like look down. But going back to like my idea and vision, the Stations of the Cross, like I'm like, I think I'm going to do the Stations of the Cross, and my wife is like, perfect. She goes, but you're going to have to tell people you're doing that, and I'm like, why? They should just be able to see that I'm doing that and find it. And a handful of people have already, but now I'm kind of being more vocal. So she's like, look, I'm a metalhead, you're a metalhead. There's so many bands out. You're gonna have to say, look for these hidden messages. Open up the book, compare it to the lyrics. You know what I mean? Because honestly, it wasn't like I was like, oh, if the Christians say up, I'll just say down. I'm like using their words against them in certain phrases at certain times to make it the most effective. And to be honest, it was a giant pain in the ass. That's why I think that I'm happy with this because I put more time into it than I did our other releases, and hopefully you could tell.
Yeah, and also not to um yeah, get too sycophantic again, but like the Hell's promo that came out, very short. The blurb on it was like, yeah, the Prophetic are back, blah, 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 doing the thing, you know, vague description of the EP or whatever. But compared to some of the promos I get, they write paragraphs and paragraphs of this album is based on this piece of Mesopotamian mythology, blah, 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 and you need to read this
Uh-huh.
codex, blah, 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 and spoon feeding you all this shit. And I was like, well, I'm going to skip over all that. Where's the file so I can listen to the fucking music? Because that's all I'm going to base whether I review this or not on. I'm going to listen to the music. I don't need a fucking codex of all of the stuff you've researched or whatever. I'm sure you spent a lot of time on it. It's great. I'll probably look into it if the music's good, but all I need right now is the file so I can listen to
Yeah,
it.
I think that's
You know,
just the way. Like, I could have done that. And like, all right, let's put it this way: if Nathan was like, "I'm heavily suggesting you do that," I would. But it's kind of not in my nature to write all that bullshit because and I'm not.
it wouldn't be Profanatica as well because
No,
you've already got that you got your name out there. If you had 5 paragraphs of shit, you'd be like, well, okay, Profanatica have taken a bit of a left turn. You just need new EP. Here's what it is. Like,
that's what I thought. Now, I don't mean everybody should know us, but if the people are like, oh, new Profanatica, then they absolutely should know us and the old stuff. Like anybody that's going to be interested. But there's also these like weirdos out there, and it's kind of funny because when I say that, like call somebody a weirdo, my wife gives me this look like you really can't say that. You know what I mean? And I'm like, meaning that I'm the head weirdo. I'm like, I fucking ain't right. I could say that. But there's these strange people out there that are gravitated towards my shit that don't, they're not even really metalheads. They just like it. They don't know why they like it. And I'm like 100% down with them coming aboard rather than like, oh, I used to listen to technical death metal, but I heard your shit and I like it better.
This is
You,
interesting. I remember like 10 years ago, Dark Throne got really fucking popular in hipster circles. Maybe
sure.
maybe this is like a new form of that where it's not necessarily hipsters, maybe there's just like some sort of like counterculture that's kind of picked up on Profanatica. I don't
It's
know.
it's it's not one type of weirdo though. Like it's when I say weirdo, I mean like yeah, just like a strange, like freaky dude. Like, all right, for instance, there was this dude in Hungary that had seen us and he went to the show with somebody. He was a friend of a friend, and he was just this math expert. He worked for the government, and his whole deal was like mathematics. And he was just fascinated by our shit.
That's actually kind of common in Hungary. There's a lot of mathematicians from Hungary, by the way.
Is there?
Yes, there is.
What the hell do they think they're doing there? Are
And
they
physicists and all that. Yeah, Hungarians are fucking aliens, man. Um, they're out there. Really like niche types of intelligences. But I met a Attila from Mayhem. You probably have too, and he's like totally into like quantum physics.
Yeah, I mean, I'm into that too. I like it. And so I didn't know that about the math, but this guy wasn't really a metalhead, but he
So you know
liked,
about the double slit experiment? Shelly just likes me saying that.
yeah,
Double slit.
of course. I'm an
So I was going to
observer
mention as
myself.
well, like I- Eastern Europe isn't like Finland, but it is metal is more common out there as well. I will say they it's not part of pop culture, but if you're to use your words, Paul, if you're a weirdo, you probably do know about black metal. Whereas in the UK or the US, if you're a weirdo, you have to be a certain kind of weirdo to know about extreme metal. Whereas in Eastern Europe, I think like Attila's something of a sort of celebrity and things like
Yeah,
they
sure.
just know about black metal in general.
They this guy knew about it, but he's been to a show or two, but he's like, it's not my thing. I go with my friend if my friend wants me to go and I have a beer. But he was like fascinated. And he goes, I counted all your snare drum hits and none of your shit is like kind of I usually he goes, I could see any live band and know immediately what they're gonna do. And the choices you made were very different. I'm like, all right, well, they make sense to me. But I'm my point is I'm happy to have a guy like that on board liking our shit rather than like I keep saying somebody that has a passing interest in because I don't want any people going, oh, Profanatic is okay. They need to be like a part of Black Cult Ejaculate and be 100% in or out.
Yeah, the worst thing someone could say about your band is, "Oh, they were okay."
Yeah, or they were
They need
pretty
to say that was
decent.
the worst thing I've ever heard,
Yeah,
or this was amazing.
totally.
Like,
Why is the bass so loud and that drummer's spitting and screaming blasphemies? What's his fucking problem? Like, that's what I want. That's not why I'm doing it, but it should be like a byproduct of a decent show, like a bonus.
I just Googled the Hungarian mathematics stuff, and yeah, what I said is actually very true. Hungary has produced a disproportionately large number of influential mathematicians relative to its population size. So there's a lot of information out there. So it's probably just in our culture now to be really good at math. I know there's a lot of chess players and all of that from Hungary. My father's side was from Hungary, and my grandmother was like really good at Rubik's cubes and all kinds of other
Interesting.
silly shit. So it may just be Hungarians are just kind of weirdos and nerdy.
It could be that they're weirdos and they like excel at math too. It could be separate.
Yeah,
But I do know I took a picture with this guy and I'm like on three, say math is stupid. And he goes, no. Like he was kind of serious about it. I was like, damn, this guy's the real deal.
yeah, don't insult those numbers, man.
No, I don't know what they're gonna solve, but I think it's something serious.
Fucking keep the exponent. What is blasphemy squared? Blasphemy cubed?
So J Dog, Shelly, you like him?
I think Shelly and J Dog should meet up and do an episode together.
I mean, he would do it. He's totally legit in that he'll tell you, I don't really like this, but I do like this, this, and this. And he's the youngest one of the brothers, so they were always
Yeah,
picking
I,
on him, you know.
I think he's only a few years older than Jason, I think, if I understood this correctly. But I think that'd be like me in interviewing Muhammad Ali or someone where it's just completely dominated by this massive physically massive guy, physically personality wise as well. Where it's like, no, I think from my point of view, I'm very happy to interview him, but I'm viewing it more as an anthropologist because I move in metal circles. I've met people like that before, but I've not met someone that's so American like that. Not just like, yeah, as I said, the lingo, the accent, the libertarianism, the work ethic, the I know he kind of plays a character on his YouTube channel, but he plays it very, very well. I'll
No,
Oh,
say.
Ledney said it's not a character, right? It's not a.
well, no,
Plays up to
no.
it though.
Yeah, he does for sure. And he gets clicks and he's not phony. Like that's the real him. But he's
Yeah,
just
he's
like
not.
turning it up a notch for the
Yeah,
video.
that's what I mean. He's not.
Sure.
He's not playing a character, but he's being hyperbolic, yeah, we all do on the internet. Like we just do on social media. We just play up to who we are. Like, yeah.
But he's got this whole it's like a J Dog culture now kind of
Well,
happening.
yeah, I hang out in the comments section now and then when he posts a particularly inflammatory video where he's just I think I'm on board with what Cam Lee was saying about him in that he's um whether I agree or disagree with what he's saying, he's just bringing it back to what just being what's the word I'm looking for? Just provoking people for the sake of it, which I think metal doesn't have enough of these days, is just being a bit of an asshole, poking some
Mm-hmm.
poking some hornets nests, pissing some people off, and having fun while you're doing it. And I think people in metal are kind of these days they've sort of inculcated stuff from other surrounding music cultures and stuff, and they are being a bit too nice about each other. I'm not saying you should be an arsehole for the sake of it. I don't think you should just be a dickhead or whatever, but there is value in what he's doing in terms of just calling out the shit that he likes, calling out the shit that he doesn't like, and just ripping on people when he thinks they're when he think he's calling people on their bullshit. And I think there's real value in that, and that's to some extent what I try and do, but in a very, very roundabout way with like really long, overly labored language, whereas he does it in in the J Dog speak.
Yeah,
So
American style. Like metal has lost a little bit of that. I see this is not tongue in cheek so much or breaking character, but he does it like turned up a notch in his way rather than like sugarcoat it. Like America the metalheads used to think and act like him back in the day, like late 80s, early 90s, but that kind of disappeared and it's kind of like refreshing to have somebody like him. That's kind of why I like it, and I think it's funny.
I think that's what I was getting at is he's entertaining and funny, but yeah, he's bringing it back to that just being an arsehole now and then. And I think music doesn't have enough of that anymore. It's just being an arsehole for no reason other than you like the wrong bands. And I don't even necessarily agree with his takes all the time, but like I just like that he fires people up in the comments and they will go in there like, oh, you don't like. And it's just
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
I'm me and his brothers are not into this bands that he's into at all.
No, I mean, Jason and I have talked about this, but he really rates like New Dare Side, not into that at all.
Yeah.
There's a few other things where it's just like, I don't know. Yeah, not really interested in that more than just the way he expresses it is like just perfectly designed to piss people off in the comments, basically.
Totally. And I'll text his brother, like, because I'm up early for work and I'm kind of grinding too. So it's like 6:05, I'm up. I put on J Dog. I'm checking my emails, checking my phone, WhatsApp, see who needs something from me, and I listen to him for a little bit in the background, and then like bolt off to work. But he is. I will text his brother. Because the brother is like Chase gets nervous sometimes about like, what is he going to say? You know what I mean? Is he going to go too far and it's going to have like consequences for us? But he's an adult. He could handle his shit.
I don't
J
think,
Dog.
yeah, I don't think it's really going to be detrimental to those headbangers.
No, I think it's been helping, according to the brothers. Because I mean, their other brother used to have Reaper Metal Productions. I don't know if you guys remember that. It was kind of like a video. He did videos, kind of
Oh, okay.
for
I will say,
Hells.
like, in certain circles, like, I'd say Headbangers has got more in trouble for what it's selling, not who's selling it. So if they're selling selling records by bands that are not even NSBM, but like problematic or whatever. But that's kind of maybe I'm thinking more 5, 6, 7 years ago when that was more of a thing as just people saying, "Oh, no, boycott." Well, people talk about boycotting Season of Mist because someone knew someone that said something bad or whatever. It was that kind of thing. Whereas I
Yeah.
think Hell's Headbangers is like it's massive enough, and yeah, like I bought plenty of shit on Hell's Headbangers in the past, and J Dog is so obviously like. I mean, I sorry, as an English guy, I feel ridiculous saying J Dog out loud, even. Whatever his name, whatever his actual name is, his Christian name.
Justin, but
Justin.
you should say it. And like we're empowering you to say J Dog and let your inner American out. Like
Squire J of the dog.
he
I
he
think
is
he's so obviously yeah, an internet character that I think anyone that takes that seriously in terms of like, oh, he's being, I don't know, American gung ho libertarian or whatever, anyone that takes that seriously is kind of yeah, they're been had basically. Like
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And that's the kind of the joke of it too. But I don't think he's planning it. I think it just worked out that way. Like
Yeah,
his personality came out and I don't know,
you can see it in the format as well because he gets people to pay for questions and then he'll start answering a question and then get distracted and then just start ranting about something else. It's like it's totally spontaneous in that way.
yeah, it is.
It's
And
funny when he comes across a word he doesn't know. I'm
Yeah, he
sorry.
didn't know what waterboarding was in one of them.
really,
Yeah, it was quite funny. It was like, what the fuck is waterboarding? It's like all the comments were like, dude.
that's great. I did talk to him recently, about his fest. I want to say it's coming on Friday. Uh so we'll see. People seem to enjoy like the chats I do with you guys too. So
Yeah, they've done numbers.
okay, so Retha in Dead Angels, Jason, did you heard the whole thing?
I did heard the whole thing.
All right.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. For Profanatica, it's definitely a very strong foot forward. And Shelley kind of summarized some of my thoughts that it kind of encapsulates everything that Profanatica is known for, at least the newer incarnation when you guys reformed. Yeah, it's a very solid release. I do have to listen to it a couple more times to like finally reach a verdict on it. But yeah, it's very solid. I enjoyed it, and I appreciate you reaching out and Shelley sending me the promo. Yeah, good work.
All right, cool. Thank you. It's funny because I had it like my kids will take my car, and I noticed they were listening to it. So because I had the CDs, I got the CDs already. So I cracked one open and listened to it in the car to see how it played. And I asked them what they thought, and they were like, "I like the punk aspect to it." And I was like, "All right, right on." Because we, of course, like since the kids were little, they grew up on listening to metal and shit. I didn't force anything on them, but liquid metal, the metal station. I don't know. You guys familiar with that? Like Sirius XM?
Yeah, the satellite radio, right?
Yeah. So like they a band would come on, and I'm like, "What do you think of this?" And they'd be like, "Crap." And I'm like, "Why? What don't you like about it?" Try to find out. Like,
They got your DNA, man. They got your DNA.
they don't like it. They don't like the trigger drums and shit. And I was like, all right. They just kind of found the real stuff by themselves, which is the best way to do it, in my opinion. And I guess I like to see we get a lot of new younger kids at the gigs that have roots that went back and did the proper research. There's a lot of kids we came across in Europe that like older shit, like Exciter and Satan, and like good old metal, like regular heavy metal too.
That's really cool
Which
that the children have latched on to metal, and it seems like they have a good discernment of what they consume. Nowadays, there's so much bullshit out there. Like I can't imagine being like 12 years old getting into extreme metal again, where there's just so much they have to wade through before you reach something, of high quality. So it's good they have the discernment to distinguish between what's good and what's shit.
it is pretty cool. I said, "What do you think of the sound?" They're like, "Good." And I'm like, "Any suggestions?" And they're like, "No, maybe more D beats." And I'm like, "All right."
Oh, nice.
They
Okay.
they like that kind of the way we do it, I guess. They were like, "Your D beats I like better than some of the old punk shit, even though they originated it. Your shit's heavier than theirs." And I'm like, "Okay, right on. That's what I'm going for."
I mean, yeah, I can understand that. Like, obviously, you can't really top Discharge, but
No,
the
no.
the D beats with black metal, I'm a sucker for it. Like I said, I noticed it on your EP as well, which yeah, really appreciate. So
Cool. So I like that's another thing where when the same lineup as Crux Simplex, when the guitar player was like, "Look, I have a riff. I don't know if you're gonna like it. It might not be evil enough, but it's got a D beat." And I'm like, "Let's hear it." And we changed a few minor things. So it's kind of like evil. I like to try to make it like an evil punk style, kind of. And one of the bands that really influenced me was when Danzig did Sam Hain, because that project, I don't know if you guys like that, but
yeah, no, I love that. I love all things Danzig, but yeah, go on.
yeah, I mean, it's like death rock, it's like punk, it's like a lot of different styles that work together to get like his evil message across. And of course, old Misfits is classic, but there's something about the Sam Hain that I kind of always liked better. It was like it had like some experimental shit, more tribal drumming. Because I mean, obviously, as time went on, he got better players. Always, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and well, Misfits was always a bit bipolar for me in terms of like you get the 50s crooner style, but also you get things like the more hardcore shit like FAD,
Yeah,
where that's totally different beast to the other Misfits work. I'm talking all the sort of Danzig era, obviously, and then yeah, obviously Danzig himself is like obviously seems like a bit of a cunt as a person, but he is just just knows how rock and roll and punk work and
yeah,
that crossover with metal. He's just so good at articulating that.
I would say.
Yeah,
Because I mean, Danzig, when I first heard that, I was like, I don't like this bluesy type shit. And I kind of still don't like it, but I'm glad he did it. like for him. He does know how it works. Like he likes that, so he kind of put that in there.
Yeah, and I'm still a huge fan of like classic metal and to some extent that bluesy stuff as well. I think that's my dad's influence coming through because he's a massive fan of the blues. Um, but yeah, just that crossover that Danzig has, I think that's why he captures so many different fan bases. Like here we are talking about the most extreme black metal, and we're still talking about Danzig, and you could talk to fans of fucking The Cure or something, and they'd be talking about Danzig as well. Like,
That's true.
yeah.
Jason, what else? What else you got?
I'd already told you about my 6 inches. Let's see. Shelly, you haven't given your Ledney impression yet. You have to do it. You have to do it.
Fuck's sake.
Do
Can't
it.
believe you did this. So these fuckers from Norway, they fucking made these blast beats and just this tremolo shit, but we did it first, man. Like fucking, and now every time I go to a festival, it's like folk shit. It's all these fucking guys playing folk, but we did it first, man. Where's the fucking bass? Where's the bass?
That is the best, and that's a damn good question.
Sorry, Paul.
Where is the bass?
Good
So
that's the thing. I'm
That
regurgitating
was
stuff
good.
you've said, but I have been thinking about it, and I am very sorry. Jason, maybe do it.
Yeah, I think in person it was better.
it was pretty good.
Yeah, it'll still, you can hear some Ledneyisms.
Yeah, for sure.
intonations.
It's like I think next time Shelley might be full on American between that and J Dog.
Yeah.
So the paid skis, you wouldn't take paid questions, would you? You guys?
No, we just do this off our own back.
Because I think that I mentioned that I called him out on that. I don't know if you saw the one with me, but he said that somebody asked him a question. He didn't get to it right away. And the guy freaked out and within a 24-hour period, like got a hold of all their phone numbers and their emails and their home phone and everybody's personal email and work email and want to know why he didn't read the questions, like flip the fuck out. And he goes, I was actually going to answer the guy's question. So he goes, look, if you want to definitely, because he was like, this guy was like off his rocker about this. He goes, then pay me, kind of as a joke, just being a jerk, like send money and I'll read it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So-
So this guy paid for a question and he didn't read it.
No, he just asked a question at the beginning before he started the paid questions, and
okay.
he didn't get to it yet. He was going to, and the guy freaked out, and he had like all the brothers had like multiple emails from this guy, and the guy.
Yeah.
It's only like $10. I'm not saying that's not cheap, but for a question, but it's not like breaking the bank rate. It's who don't have $10, man.
They should deliver pizzas and just like grind,
Exactly.
and then
So,
we'll
yeah,
have money for a paid ski.
Yeah, Shelly and I, we kind of stopped commenting so much in like the comment sections and all that, more just, focus on these episodes, and we kind of already built up some traction. So yeah, we've stopped, dedicating time to answer people's questions and all that. But
Our own comment section has its resident cunts as well. So
Oh, sure.
yeah,
You can't
we
get
have our
away from them.
trolls. Yeah, we have our trolls. But Shelly, he did start his own OnlyFans for his words. Those essays.
means fucking Substack.
Yeah. It's really
I'm not
fucked up.
fucking OnlyFans.
I heard that's where
only,
the real money is.
I'm only 6 inches, mate.
6 centimeters here in England. I'm joking.
So wait a second. Didn't we played a fest, I believe, in England? Were you there, Shelley, or no?
No, but two of my friends were there. Was
Okay.
it? Did you play at Camden Underworld?
Yeah.
Yeah. What was I doing? I think I was cradling my newborn son which is why I couldn't come, unfortunately.
Fair enough.
Yeah, but I have two friends who are good gig buddies of mine, and they were down, and I was like, I just kept pushing Profanatica on them. That's not really their thing. They're more like prog guys. But they went to go and see you at Camden Underworld, and they said it was
Okay.
a very good show. But yeah,
Okay, right on. I believe that night was good. We played pretty good. We had a pretty decent slot. And honestly, I think we played right before Suffocation, who I've never met. That
really,
sounds weird. Never, we just ran in different circles. Never met those guys. I mean, Mortician, Incantation, Immolation, we were all friends in the late 80s,
I
early
thought
90s.
Suffocation moved in the same geographical
They
area. I know
are,
they're from
they
Long
were,
Island or whatever, but
yeah, they were like about an hour away from us, but we never, that was the first time I met those guys.
oh, okay, fair
Yeah,
enough.
so, and
Because
then
it's not even Frank Mullen anymore. He's retired, hasn't he? Or
I think so. I don't know much about that band.
Yeah, I believe Frank retired like 10 years ago.
Damn.
Yeah.
I know the Underworld was a great sounding venue. I think it was pretty full in there. They did a good job with that fest.
yeah,
And
the Underworld is it's one of the iconic venues in. I've seen Gorgoroth there. I've seen a bunch of metal bands there before, and a bunch of festivals as well. Not always 100% on the sound, but it depends what kind of band they have on. But or whoever's behind the mixing desk. But yeah, great venue.
they had a really good person. I forgot her name, but she did pretty good, I would say, because there's mostly junk, and then you hit a spot like that, and you're like, okay. And I like that size room. I don't. We played bigger rooms that were full, and they really weren't as good. I feel we do better if it's like a really small room, and it's only like almost like a souped up party slash rehearsal, but with a real PA. That's when people kind of will start to move.
Yeah, it's like a bar with a pit and a
I,
stage and stuff. So
yeah, and the PA was like kind of cranked that night. At least I thought. So I was I
yeah.
forget who else played. I think Marduk played on another stage.
Marduk played. They got themselves into trouble because their
Oh
bassist
right,
started flipping Nazi salutes around.
right,
It was that
right,
festival. You played on the same stage as Lamp of Murmur as well, who
right.
I don't
So
rate, but everyone seems to love them. So
I mean, everybody's a cool guy too. Like that's a thing. I'd be like, I'm not into this, I'm not into that, but there's other shit to talk about too besides like music. So we everybody's tired when they get to the venue. Everybody's like, oh, now what the fuck? We're being rushed here. Sound check. Hurry up. You have like 5 minutes to eat and then get your shit set up. So, like, all the people are like, cool, especially like the bands that I secretly would never put in to listen to. They're all cool guys. You know what I mean? Like, I'm friends with all the black metal bands from Finland. Like, you know,
all the
actually,
folk shit, all the folk with the fiddles.
there's some folky shit going on over there, except somebody like Blood Chalice who has the right idea. Jason, did we talk about Blood Chalice or no?
I am running a blank on that, Mr. Led.
Okay, I'm
Did I
sorry.
did I tell you I got to meet Marco Lejo while I was in Finland?
Right on. What did he say?
Well, he said a lot. I mean, hung out with him for a few days. We went to the
We're going
orchestra.
to say he said nothing because he's Finnish and they don't say anything.
Well, he's a little insecure about his English, which is why he hasn't come on this podcast. But at least that was his excuse. But we went to the Helsinki Philharmonic for Shostakovich and Mahler, right up front, and then we made noise for a day, so we have like 25 minutes of noise that we made together.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, pretty evil sounding noise. And then what else? Oh, we just had some beers and shit downtown Helsinki. Really cool guy, and chatted a lot about, death metal, black metal, and all that fun stuff. But I have not heard Blood Chalice. That was the name, right? Blood Chalice.
Yeah, you should definitely you should check them out. That they're not necessarily new, but that's one of the newer bands besides Hexacration Rights that I could definitely stand behind. Let's put it that way. You'll be surprised. It's Finnish black metal, but it's like done correctly in the proper style.
I think I know what you mean.
Yeah,
Well, if we're talking, because
looking
I
for
don't think
more
Finnish
guys.
black metal has a typical style. Because we were talking earlier on about war metal, like Beherit, Impaled Nazarene.
Uh-huh.
They're all war metal adjacent, but they all have their own unique
True.
on it.
And
Like,
it's kind of like it was like that back in the day, like I always talked about, like us, Rotting Christ had their own Greek kind of style. Uh, Impaled Nazarene sounded nothing like Beherit, who sounded nothing like Provocation, And then once the Norwegians, they kind of commandeered the term black metal and then took the death metal formula out of it. But I still stand by this. Uh, the old Finnish death metal was way eviler than the newer Finnish black metal. Like if you just listen to the structure and the riffs and like that band Abhorrence we talked about, and Old Sentenced and shit.
mm, I
That
yeah, I'm with you on that.
because I mean you got like everybody like my one problem like when I said where's the bass is like everybody looks badass. They're covered in blood. They have big spikes, big boots, like huge muscles, and then frilly, very feminine guitar parts. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, no. Like, it's like watching. I don't know how
You
old
mean
you
like
guys are.
the Swedish bands where they're all covered in blood, but the guitar parts are very heavy metal, the
Uh,
lead parts, or
more feminine, pretty sounding guitar.
okay.
What the brings me back to like that folk bass. But again, being an adult here, you could do whatever you want. Just like kind of don't bring that shit around me.
You're talking about like the man bun guy. If he made black metal, that'll be feminine, right?
No, maybe
Talking about Kirk Hammett.
maybe personally, yes. Like that new hipster shit with the man buns and the long titles or anything post. I hate too. I don't even like that
I do
name
too.
post.
Yeah, I'm writing a paper on elitism, which I'm for, and yeah, I completely trash the post black metal in it. So
It's just like it's nothing new. It's like taping a screwdriver to a wrench. Like it's not a new tool. You're just taking the worst parts out of all different styles of music and lumping them together.
it just sounds like indie rock to me.
Yeah, it is indie rock, and they call it
Well,
black metal because there's like a tree shaped logo, and
yeah, it's like you've listened to Dark Throne and Radiohead. Good job.
yeah, and black metal imagery. That's it. There's a certain like real. There's like real people in metal and like real people in punk, and it's not like you have to go out and like if you're into like punk or hardcore, beat the shit out of everybody, be covered in tattoos. But there's this like real feel to a person if they're like really into it or not. And I'm just
I
not
think
sold on the new shit.
I think I think this comes back to something that I read Jason write on a message thread. And again, I'm going to choose my words carefully because I don't want to name anyone, but he was saying that he was trying to get the message across to someone that wasn't necessarily as enthralled by metal. He was saying some people are just metal and that is all they know. Like their worldview is metal. And I think that's kind of what I'm getting at with the J-Dog thing is
That's
uh,
monomaniacalism,
it's
where
it's monomaniacal where everything you do, whether you're flipping burgers in Burger King or you're counting your bank balance, everything is assessed in terms of how much you can be metal, whether it's going to the festival, playing in your band, doing your thing. Um, it's all just metal. Whereas some people kind of dip in now and then. And yeah, not saying they're not dedicated and they don't love metal as a form of music, like they absolutely do, but they just can't get themselves in this mentality of just people that like they will decide which party to vote for based on what metal bands they like. They will decide where to go on holiday based on metal. Like just there's
Well,
just this thing.
that I
But
was referring to, and Paul, you may know him, Alex from Thorn Spawn, where
Yeah,
I was, yeah.
that guy is, he lives and breathes metal. That's all he cares about. And he said something offensive, but it's metal to say something offensive, right?
sure.
Someone else got upset and was like, well, this is, just he's just being metal. He's obviously not a white supremacist being a Mexican, so he was just being metal. I think he made a joke about the Holocaust or something. I forget what it was, but um it's obviously he's not serious about it. He's just, being confrontational, um
Sure.
provoking response.
There's also like there's extreme personalities too. Like for me, I like comedies, but I happen to gravitate more towards like old school, really offensive shit that's kind of shocking and funny. And they're also making like the old school shows, at least in America, that were quote unquote racist that wouldn't like go over well now. Those shows were like making the racist people look stupid. Like they were kind of telling a story about how ridiculous it is to think like that through the show. Like All in the
Yeah.
Family with Archie Bunker. You know what I mean? They weren't shining him in some like great light. They were just saying this guy's like ill-informed. He's got old school thoughts. He is racist. Some of the shit he said was so outlandish and stupid that it was funny, but that he was a product of his time.
I
And
mean,
that,
I guess that's what I'm getting at is we have that here in the UK as well. It's like there's plenty of comedies that haven't aged well, but if you dig beneath, there is a subtlety to it. But I think from a musical perspective as well, there's plenty of well, metal grapples with this fucking all the fucking time in terms of this guy's been cancelled or this song
yeah,
is
sure.
about blah 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 blah. And my natural like physical response is, well, why the fuck are you listening to metal? If you can't grapple with these extreme viewpoints, then why even are you involved in this space? My more mature sort of outlook would be, yeah, okay, there are kind of there are offensive people and there are upsetting sort of viewpoints or whatever, but metal gives you kind of a way to metabolize them. If you're a younger person, say early 20s or whatever, and you're feeling upset about XYZ, metal gives you a way to kind of understand this in a kind of unique perspective. And the sort of go-to thing example that I'm talking about in not a very coherent way is just Tom Araya saying Auschwitz, the meaning of pain, the way that I want you to die. Just reach for that, inhabit that thought for a second, and kind of let it sort of wash over you, and then you'll just be less upset about everything else that anyone is saying. Just it's a little bit like reading fantasy literature. Just put yourself in the mindset of someone in that extreme circumstance and just let it inhabit you for a bit, like religious extremism, which metal deals with a lot, or just just ritual or being completely intoxicated by an idea. Just let that inhabit you for a second, and then maybe you'll just calm down about something else. I don't know.
That's true. The other, this this goes deep too. So we played we were guest on a fest with some of those like there was shitty NS bands there, and I kind of told them they were stupid. I don't support that. I wasn't offended. I wasn't scared. I thought they were just like fat little dorks, and they were
Yeah.
like almost phony baloney. They had become what they hated, but the difference was they had their group of people with their patches on that they were cool with. You know what I mean? So I actually said to one of the head ones, "You'll let anybody in your group, uh, even these like fat little young dorks, as long as they have cool shirts on. And they go, that's not true. And I go, well, it is. And this is kind of funny because like my wife's the opposite of like Yoko Ono. She won't give me feedback unless I like absolutely demand it. But we're driving and she goes, can't you just even let the Nazis have one fun day? And I go, no, I can't. I think it's stupid. She goes, okay. I think it sucked too. But
Yeah, it's like
my
that.
point is like, it's like when I read like everybody's split in the comments, like far left, far right. And I'm like, guys, there's something called divide and conquer. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but it's working quite well, A. And B, just give all your money to the fucking church if you're going to believe everything you read, see, or hear. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think this is something that people don't understand on either side of the political divide. I don't want to get too heavily into
No,
politics,
neither
but
do
like,
I.
but they don't understand that like metal is about it's just to
It,
put it in its most vulgar terms, it is about being that extreme. And they don't understand that sometimes people, when they're making these extreme statements, they're not thinking about politics. They're not thinking about the political orientation of the Clinton dynasty. They're not thinking about who Ronald Reagan was. They are being that extreme, and that is the point. And that
Yeah,
is,
that's like they're like Euronymous saying he was a communist because communism kills the most people. And
or Euronymous saying that he approved of sodomy because it meant that he was rebelling against the Catholic Church or whatever. It's like, yeah, like
those
probably
crazy
trolling. Like
Europeans,
Euronymous was
right,
a
Paul?
consummate troll. He was one of the archetypical trolls actually.
yeah, for
And it's
sure.
yeah, and it's like that's absolutely the point, and that's stop stop taking it so seriously, I guess is what I'm getting at.
Well,
True.
I've seen, you know, pictures of bands from the early '90s, you know, death metal bands with, you know, some Nazi things, but it's not that they knew about Nazism or skinheads or anything like that. They just adopted the imagery just to scare off the fucking posers.
Sure.
Well,
Yeah,
Sepultura did it, Slayer did
Yeah,
it,
for
Iggy
sure.
Pop did it. Like, yeah.
For sure. Like Sid Vicious used to have like a swastika shirt. I actually have an old photograph of Mike from Suicidal with a swastika shirt on. And he's like, his face is covered in blood. Like somebody popped him really good at a show.
I mean,
So it goes
yeah,
both ways. Like if you want to play, you have to pay.
yeah.
And back in the day, like we said, and I'm not saying this is better or worse, I'm just saying how it was in the late 80s. There were real Nazis at gigs and they would stomp you out if you looked at them cross-eyed, and they were a real force to be reckoned with. Like they were no joke. And I'd like to, just for my own amusement, bring some of those guys back, put them on a show, and see what today's kids would do, because I'll tell you, they wouldn't do shit. Like these were like full grown muscle guys, and I'm like, every time I went to a show as a kid, because I'd be like, fuck, I'm here alone, and these fucking guys are going to be there, and there's going to be like 15 or 20 of them, skinheads in a giant group. I don't want to deal with this shit. You know what I mean? I just was like, flew in under the radar. You know what I mean? I kind of watched every band as close to the stage, off to the side as I could, to kind of focus on the drummer, see what he was doing. But I remember it being a real problem back in the day. I don't think that some dork who thinks it's cool to be like a fence sitter with like an NS patch he's definitely not a threat. And he's definitely like, is it a problem? Who cares? I mean, I don't like him. You know what I mean? I don't like that kind
Yeah.
of style of music. The other thing is, people are like, oh, they wouldn't let me into this club because I had this patch on. I'm like, all right, if that's your claim to fame, like, are you proud of that? Then fucking put a new patch on. I don't know what to tell you, or stay home. Like,
I mean,
Yeah, it's just
I like
you
Graveland, but most NS black metal fucking sucks. Like
yeah, it
the
sucks.
content is not there. It's not enjoyable music.
No, it's
Well,
not. It's
Jason,
not worthy of.
you don't even have to reach for Graveland anymore. You can wear a Burzum hoodie and you'll be thrown out of a lot of establishments now.
Really?
Well, let me tell you guys something that both of those people could not play guitar in Profanatica, meaning
No, they couldn't.
they couldn't pick like that. They don't have that strong hand to bend the fingers with authority like I demand. Because it's not easy for my guys to, and girls, because we have a female bass player, but it's not easy for them to put those robes on and, kind of deal with my bullshit of like what I expect.
No, I agree. I think what I was the thought I was mulling on again, and it won't be a surprise to Jason, is just back back in the day when I was putting on nappies in when I was a baby, in the late 80s, early 90s, it felt like people wanted music to challenge them, and now it feels like people want music to um reaffirm their beliefs. And I've always been I'm a slightly younger than Jason, I think. So obviously I'm younger than you, Paul. Sorry to say it, but I think for my generation, I've always been someone that seeks out like music that genuinely makes me scared, not just on a musical level, but on a sort of moral level as well. And I like art that I think that's the point of art. It's supposed to challenge me and make me feel uncomfortable and make me scared. And I feel like a lot of people of my generation, um, talking to sort of mid 30s to early 40s, are um, they're too obsessed with finding artists that agree with them on some political or very, very specific moral point that they've sort of forgotten to enjoy extreme art in general, not just music, but art, film, sculpture, whatever it is. But yeah,
Sure. I mean, I see a lot of today's there's threads that I've ended up on where people are asking if it's okay to listen to something. And I'm like, what do
yeah,
you
and that's my least favorite thing is when
I
I see an
would
article
I would
where it's
never do
basically
that.
it's like consumer advice. Oh, you can buy from these
Yeah.
brands. Like, that's my least favorite thing.
Yeah, is this band safe? I'm like, what do you mean safe from what? Like I don't get it. But I'm just I would never do that. So for me personally, I'm not I'm not a guy that like so personally if I won't watch a movie like I'm not into like rape in film. You know what I mean?
No, yeah,
So
yeah, absolutely.
I'm not really like there's plenty of horror films that have it. I'm not afraid of it. I just won't put myself through watching that. So I'll skip over that type of shit. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, absolutely.
problem solved. I know a lot of people that for some reason or another, the films that they mention feature that, and they themselves don't agree with it. They find it horrifying, but they're for me, it makes me that uncomfortable that I don't want to look at that.
So I had the same reaction to Cannibal Holocaust when I saw that when I was a youngin.
Yeah,
With the turtle scene, I felt so sorry for the poor turtle.
yeah, for sure. And especially if you were younger, then it's magnified, and that shit will like stick with you longer.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah. I actually had the DVD of it and popped it on, and yeah, I got rid of the DVD
Yeah.
because I
So
just did not like that.
yeah,
Turtle
for
scene.
sure. Understandable. Um, but you're not out trying to stop the production of that movie. Like we need to I don't like that. So we
Right.
need to stop all Cannibal Holocaust DVDs and
Well,
I'm
the
gonna
thing
write
is, they actually killed real animals. Like that was
no,
a
I
real
know they
turtle.
did. I
Yeah.
know they did.
Um.
Well,
So
maybe Cannibal Holocaust is a bad example because there was genuine animal harm in there, but like just oh, we're depicting XYZ. I think uh I'm trying to think of a sort of contemporary example of this, but like where it's just this form of art upsets me, therefore I will make a social media storm about it, rather than saying, actually, meeting the art on its own terms and saying, no, it's meant to upset me. What is it upsetting me about? Let me interrogate those feelings. I think that's the sort of distinction we're talking about, right?
Yeah. In art, like you said, like music or film or anything. Because when you're young and you're like get like Marquis de Sade some of that writing, and you're like, holy shit, this is shocking. You know what I mean?
Mm.
That type of shit.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I've had a
Ledney,
lot of
what
people go ahead.
what's your favorite movie, like horror movie?
Hereditary.
Really?
Yup.
What about
It
the one that came after that one by the same director? It was the folky
that
one.
was
Remember the folky
yeah,
movie? You didn't
that
like that?
was I did. I haven't watched it again.
There's some freaky scenes in that with like the mating scene with all the naked women around them, chanting
Yeah,
or having. I was like, that's some European stuff going on there.
it was. I'm
Hotty,
thinking
hotty, hot.
it was, but and I didn't not like it. Um, there was some like that guy, I guess, is quite good at he kind of told the whole movie was told. I don't know if you know this, on the side of the inside of like one of those cabins there was wallpaper, and that wallpaper explained the whole movie, I think, from start to finish in those pictorials, which
Oh,
was kind of like a nice touch. But again, I watched it, I didn't notice it, I had to be told through a video. Some guy was like, look, this is the beginning, the middle, and the end. So that's one of the other reasons why I'm just like, get Wreath and Dead Angels, internalize that shit, open the Stations of the Cross. You'll see why I said the things and like the dual meaning behind everything. And it'll be, uh, you'll get your money's worth out of it. And I think you'll appreciate me. There still is some good obnoxious blasphemy for the sake of blasphemy, because I think that's great. And I've had people come up to me at shows after going, it took me a long time to get into Profanatica because like it was so shocking and scary. And I like that because I'm not trying to do that. It's just like natural. It was natural for us that we would never in high school, we talked about starting a band like Profanatica, me and Gelso. And we were never gonna do like a Bathory Celtic Frost type shit. You know what I mean? It was always gonna be like a possessed Seven Churches sarcophago type shit.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that I love about Profanatica is the same group of friends that I mentioned earlier on, where I go to a lot of festivals and gigs with, trying to describe Profanatica to them, who are friends that, they actually, they like USBM, like Absu, whatever, very well versed in their metal or whatever, and they're just saying, you need to listen to this band, and you sort of open out the liner sleeve, and it's sort of, as I said earlier on, two hench goats with throbbing phalluses, like raping a nun, and it's just like, but listen to the music, and they're like, oh, actually no. And one of these guys, I did a 2 hour episode on Ilshan on, so he knows his shit, but it's like they're even for extreme metal guys, it is quite extreme sometimes.
Oh,
Like the minimalism of it. I know you wouldn't describe yourself as a minimalist because you wouldn't describe yourself as anything, but that you do sit within that tradition of like metal minimalism in terms of just getting so much more from less, I suppose.
yeah, I appreciate that. I like that, and it's kind of like a second, like a nice surprise, kind of to hear that, because I'm like, this seems kind of natural for us to do that. Um,
I think it's just that being that lurid. I think people thought Slayer was very lurid in the mid to late 80s, very, very blasphemous, and they're sort of they're still sort of the top shelf thing that people go for. Okay, maybe now people go for like Cannibal Corpse, Deicide. They'll reach for um on the black metal side, they'll reach for Watain, maybe
mhm,
Gorgoth or
mhm.
whatever. But I'm just like, okay, you say you've seen a Watain gig. have you ever heard of this band called Problematica? Like, for God's sake.
I mean, because we toured with Watain, and those guys, let's put it this way, if there's a new band with a killer demo out, or somebody doing something a little bit different or cool, those guys will know about it. So they are 100% well versed in the underground scene, and they appreciate it. Like,
Yeah,
shit...
no disrespect to Watain. Like, I don't really, I haven't really vibed with myself, but no disrespect to them as people, but they're sort of the popular choice,
Sure,
like
sure. Because
extreme,
like
like,
the first night we played, I thought we went out and ripped, and there was crickets, and I go, we walk backstage, our robes are still on. I rip my hood off, I slam it down, and I go, "What the flying fuck is wrong with these people?" And Eric goes, "Oh, I forgot to tell you that our fans are not necessarily black metal fans. They just happen to like us." And I go, "Oh,"
that's
all right. So thanks for bringing us. And I
that's
just
really
kind of...
interesting because I read so I can't remember if it was last year or the year before, but I reviewed Evolution of the Cult by Dale Patterson, and I think a whole chapter is given over to Watain, and that is the point where he does discuss that, because the whole book is based on interviews that he's done with various major figures in black metal or whatever. But he mentions the fact that Watain garnered a lot of fans that knew nothing about black metal, that just really liked what Watain did for some reason. I don't know why, but it's not for me to judge. But loads of gigs they did where they'd be playing with major black metal bands, and it was people there just to see Watain. So it's interesting that you say that, because it's a first-hand account
Yeah,
of that phenomenon.
it is a phenomenon. Um,
Yeah.
and there was like, and then I think like a couple times Eric came into our room. It was like, I couldn't help but notice you were kind of annoyed and calling out the crowd, like calling them names. And I go, "I did." And he goes, "Damn, I like that."
Well, yeah.
And I was like, "All right, cool."
It's been in black metal
It,
show before. I want to
I
get
go,
abused by the band.
I
Like,
go, "You could do that. I'm empowering you to do that." And he did it a little bit. We had played in Paris, and he let loose a little bit because everybody was just like completely silent. And I'm like, "What is with this clapping?" You know what I mean? Like, it's a show. And I'm sure I've said it on here, right, Jason? I'm like, go to a fucking movie if you want to clap. Like when the good guy saves beats
Right.
up the bad guy. Like, get the fuck out of here.
Did Waltine have dead animals on that tour? And
They
props.
had some shit, yeah.
I remember, I'm sure if you heard of this band, Hellgoat. They're from Georgia.
Yeah.
They might be up your alley, actually. You might actually like.
Yeah, I'm friends with them. In fact, Pat Pat did a string of shows with us from Helgo.
Oh, very cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
they did the dead animal stuff, but they would get like roadkill
Yeah, sure.
and just leave it rotting the whole tour. And I have never smelled like such stench before. It was wrecked
Yeah.
when I saw them play. And I had
We
like the smell stuck in my nose for like a fucking week. It was hard to get that.
that's the thing about like rotten blood and roadkill and shit. The smell will get stuck in your nose and you can't shake it. Um,
Does
we
that
actually
affect your vocals at all?
no. For my vocals, like I drink as much water as humanly possible and get as much sleep as possible. So like, yeah, I'm constantly talking shit like in the van while we're on the road, but I'm like drinking tea during the day, and then I'm usually just like got my eyes closed and I'm resting like nonstop, because if it's really easy to get sick playing every night, going from hot stage to like cold weather outside, and you kind of fucked if you get sick on the road.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It's you know how like sometimes you have to go to work sick. You could do it, but like playing sick is like really kind of shitty.
Well,
Yeah, because I've
every
been to
every
I
movie, yeah, every movie make is under a microscope when you're playing live. So I can
Especially
imagine.
me. I don't know why I'm under such scrutiny, but I am.
well, that's what I was gonna say. It's like I've gone to work sick so many times, but well, I am under scrutiny, but I don't care. It's like I don't get like most people. I don't give a shit about my job. I just do it to get by. So if I'm hungover or whatever, which I am most Mondays anyway, then I'll just do what I need to get by. But if I'm Paul Ledney and Profanatica and I'm playing a gig, it's like, well, I'm not going to phone it in. Like I need to do something for these guys or whatever. So
Yeah, totally. I will say I'm not going to name the band, but we were on the road with somebody and they were like, "Why are you out there in the fucking sleet signing people's shit?" And I'm like, I because they're like they have like I'm looking at the piles of like 7 inches they have from 1992, like all the way to now. How could I not? You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
I work.
absolutely.
It's just like I'm a metalhead first, and then like and and a punk first, and then I'm in a band like second. And I appreciate that they like it, even though we're doing it for us. If they like it, that's cool. But I'm like, I could. That's like it's almost not signing stuff for people is almost like screwing yourself over. Like if there was like a duplicate me who was happy to meet me and I was like an asshole to that person, it makes no sense.
Shit, if you come to Yorkshire and I don't know, you play Leeds or York or whatever, and then if you fuck me off, then yeah, that's me masturbating over your corpse for ages. Like,
Yeah, I'm just like so all of the people that I met that I kind of like worshipped as a young kid, like Jerry A from Poison Idea, totally cool. I've never had really a bad experience, but I'm always scared that I might. You know what I mean? Like when
well,
I'm
I hate meeting my idols for that reason, just because. Yeah, I just worry there'd be a bit of a dick, or I'll say something dumb. I'll be like,
yeah.
I really like your songs. Um,
One moment, I'm feeling my cat.
yeah, exactly, Jason, because I get starstruck every time I message you, and sometimes I do a typo. Whereas I'm feeling my pussies. Anyway, yeah, you just get starstruck, and I hate getting starstruck. I like it happened to me at Brutal Assault a few years ago. I was like, oh, Ross Dolan, he's just getting some food before he's gonna go on, and he's just with his partner. He's just wandering around, and I was like, he's just there, and I was like, I had to go up to him and talk to him, but all I could say was, really looking forward to your set. Shook his hand, wandered off. He's a foot shorter than me. He's a short guy, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah. But then I was just like, I went back to my friends. I was like, oh my God, did I make a fool of myself? It's like, no, you said 5 words to him, and the whole time I was like really nervous about like saying something dumb. I don't know,
I
because
don't.
Immigration is such an important band to me. I was like, ah,
Oh yeah, sure, sure. And that's a band, right? That I'll tell you that are way. If you really listen to it, they're way darker than Morbid Angel. I
oh,
mean,
Dawn of Possession is hands
yeah,
down one of my favorite death metal albums going. Like,
yeah, sure. Crag on drums, that was great.
yeah, it's yeah, and I just it wasn't that long. It was maybe a couple of years ago, but yeah, it was just Ross I was hanging out, and yeah, it's just getting that starstruck feeling. I remember getting it once when yeah, it was. Oh, Jason will hate this, but Averse Sephira were touring and they played in Leeds, and they were supporting Gorgoroth, and Garl was in the audience again. It was like I knew about Garl. I just shook his hand. I was like, "Hey, how
Hmm.
you doing?" And he gave me a very serious Norwegian look, and I was like,
I
sorry for shaking your hand, but
I saw him once at a fest. I think it was in Canada, and his jacket, I want to say, cost more than my car. So
It
that's
probably would have, because at the time I was a student, I didn't own a car, but yeah.
all right. So guys, want to wrap up? My phone's gonna die.
Yeah, we've been going for quite a long time, so
Yeah, I wrote a message a couple minutes ago saying
Uh,
let's wrap up. All right. Any last words, Mr. Ledney?
no, thanks for having me on again. I'm glad you guys liked the EP. And watch out for tour info. I can't talk about it, but it should be coming shortly. And that's it. I'm glad you guys dig it. It came out exactly the way I wanted it. So, like, if somebody really doesn't like it, I'm fine with it because I like it. If that makes sense. Like,
Oh,
this is
that
my
is.
my goal.
You're not insecure about it, so
No, not at all. And I'm
so
doing a lot of deep death metal vocals too.
yeah, I noticed that. It
oh,
was really
actually,
cool.
yeah, you definitely are.
Cool.
Yeah, especially yeah, that's in the incantation-y parts that I felt with the
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, that's Wreathed in Dead Angels, which comes out on April 25th. They're Hell's Headbangers. Definitely check it out. It's a good EP. It's everything that you love from Profanatica, encapsulated on one release. Mr. Leddy, I want to thank you for your time. And Shelley as well. Thank you for coming on. I know it's really late there in your England. But yeah, and of course the audience, thanks for listening.
All right. Cool. Thanks, guys.